we did observe. Cousin O'Malley, how far brought you High Hereford on his way? I brought High Hereford, if you call him so, but to the next highway, and there I left him. And say, what sort of parting tears were shed? Oh, faith, none for me, except the northeast wind, which then blew bitterly against our faces, awake the sleeping room, and so by chance did grace our hollow parting with a tear. What said our cousin when you parted with him? Farewell? And for my heart disdain that my tongue should so profane the word, that taught me craft to counterfeit oppression of such grief, that words seem buried in my sorrow's grave. Mary, would the word farewell have lengthened hours and added years to his short banishment? He should have had a volume of farewells, but since it would not, he had none of me. He is our cousin, but 'tis doubt, when time shall call him home from banishment, whether our kinsman come to see his friends. Ourself and Bushy, Bagot here and Green, observed his courtship to the common people. How he did seem to dive into their hearts with humble and familiar courtesy. What reverence he did throw away on slaves, wooing poor craftsmen with the craft of smiles and patient underbearing of his fortune. As for to banish their effects with him, off goes his bonnet to an oyster wench. A brace of draymen bid God speed him well, and have the tribute of his supple knee, with thanks, my countrymen, my loving friends, as were our England in reversion his, and he our subjects' next degree in hope. Well, he is gone, and with him go these thoughts. Now for the rebels which stand out in Ireland. Expedient manage must be made, my liege, ere further leisure yield them further means for their advantage, and your highness's loss. We will ourself in person to this war, and for our coffers, with too great a court and liberal largesse, are grown somewhat light. We are enforced to farm our royal realm. The revenue whereof shall furnish us for our affairs in hand. If that come short, our substitutes at home shall have blank charters, whereto, when they shall know what men are rich, they shall subscribe them for large sums of gold, and send them after to supply our wants, for we will make for Ireland presently. What news? Oh, John of Gaunt's Grieve is sick, my lord, suddenly taken, and hath sent post-haste to entreat your majesty to visit him. Where lies he? At Ely House. Now put it, God, in the physician's mind to help him to his grave immediately. The lining of his coffers shall make coats to deck our soldiers for these Irish wars. Come, gentlemen, let's all go visit him. Pray God we may make haste and come too late. Will the king come, that I may breathe my last in wholesome counsel to his unstained youth? Vex not yourself, nor strive not with your breath, for all in vain comes counsel to his ear. Oh, but they say the tongues of dying men enforce attention like deep harmony. Where words are scarce, they are seldom spent in vain, for they breathe truth that breathe their words in pain. He that no more must say is listened more than they whom youth and ease have taught to glose. More are men's ends mocked than their lives before. The setting sun and music at the close, as the last taste of sweets, the sweetest last, rich in remembrance more than things long past. Though Richard my life's counsel would not hear, my death's sad tale may yet undeaf his ear. No, it is stopped with other flattering sounds, as praises, of whose taste the wise are fond, lascivious metres, whose venom sound the open air of youth doth always listen. Report of fashions in proud Italy, whose manners still our tardy abish nation limps after in base imitation. Where doth the world thrust forth of vanity, so it be new, there's no respect how vile, that it is not quickly buzzed into his ears? Then all too late comes counsel to be heard, where will doth mutiny with wit's regard. Direct not him whose way himself will choose. 'Tis breath thou lackst, and that breath wilt thou lose. Methinks I am a prophet new inspired, and thus expiring do foretell of him. His rash fierce blaze of riot cannot last, for violent fires soon burn out themselves. Small showers last long, but sudden storms are short. He tires betimes, that spurs too fast betimes. with eager feeding food doth choke the feeder. Like vanity, insatiate cormorant, consuming means, soon preys upon itself. This royal throne of kings, this sceptred isle, this earth of majesty, this seat of Mars, this other Eden, demi-paradise, this fortress built by nature for herself against infection and the hand of war, this happy breed of men, this little world, this precious stone set in the silver sea which serves it in the office of a war, or as a moat defensive to a house against the envy of less happier lands, this blessed plot, this earth, this realm, this England, this nurse, this teeming womb of royal kings, fed by their breed and famous by their birth, renowned for their deeds as far from home for Christian service and true chivalry as is the sepulchre and stubborn jury of the world's ransom blessed Mary's Son. This land of such dear souls, this dear, dear land, dear for her reputation through the world, is now leased out. I die pronouncing it, like to a tournament or a pelting farm. England bound in with a triumphant sea, whose rocky shore beats back the envious siege of watery Neptune, is now bound in with shame, with inky blots and rotten parchment bonds. That England that was wont to conquer others hath made a shameful conquest of itself. Oh, would the scandal vanish with my life! How happy then were my ensuing death! The king is come. Deal mildly with its youth, for young hot coats, being rage, do rage the more. What comfort, man? How is it with aged gaunt? Oh, how that name befits my composition! Oh, gaunt indeed, and gaunt in being old. Within me grief hath kept a tedious fast, and who abstains from meat that is not gaunt? For sleeping England long time have I watched. Watching breeds leanness. Leanness is all gaunt. The pleasure that some fathers feed upon is my strict fast. I mean my children's looks. And therein fasting hast thou made me gaunt. Gaunt am I for the grave, gaunt as a grave, whose hollow womb inherits naught but bones. Can sick men play so nicely with their names? No! Misery makes sport to mock itself. Since thou dost seek to kill my name in me, I mock my name, great king, to flatter thee. Should dying men flatter with those that live? No, no, men living flatter those that die. Thou, now a-dying, say'st thou flatterest me. Oh no, thou diest, though I the sicker be. I am in health, I breathe and see thee ill. Now, he that made me knows I see thee ill. Ill in myself to see, and in thee seeing ill, thy deathbed is no lesser than thy land, wherein thou liest in reputation sick. And thou, too careless patient as thou art, commits thy anointed body to the cure of those physicians that first wounded thee. 1,000 flatterers sit within thy crown, whose compass is no bigger than thy head. And yet, encaged in so small a verge, the waste is no whit lesser than thy land. Oh, had thy grandsire, with a prophet's eye, seen how his son's son should destroy his sons, from forth thy reach he would have laid thy shame, deposing thee before thou wert possessed, which art possessed now to depose thyself. Why, cousin, wert thou regent of the world? It were a shame to let this land by lease. But for thy world enjoying but this land, is it not more than shame to shame it so? Man, Lord of England, art thou now, not king. Thy state of law is bond-slave to the law, and thou, lunatic, lean-witted fool, presuming on an ague's privilege, darest with thy frozen admonition make pale our cheek, chasing the royal blood with fury from his native residence? Now by my seat, right royal majesty, wert thou not, brother, the great Edward's son, this tongue that runs so roundly in thy head should run thy head from my unreverent shoulders. Oh, spare me not, my brother Edward's son, for that I was his father Edward's son. That blood already, like the pelican, hast thou tapped out and drunkenly caroused. Thy brother Gloucester, plain, well-meaning soul, whom fair before in heaven mongst happy souls, may be a precedent and witness good that thou respect'st not spilling Edward's blood. Join with the present sickness that I have, and thy unkindness be thy crooked age, the crop at once a too long withered flower. Live in thy shame, but die not shame with thee. These words hereafter thy tormentors be. Convey me to my grave. Love they to live that love and honour have, and let them die that age and sullens have, for both hast thou, and both become the grave. I do beseech your majesty, impute his words to wayward sickliness and age in him. He loves you on my life, and holds you dear, as Harry, Duke of Hereford, were he here. Right, you say true, as Hereford's love, so his. As theirs, so mine, and all be as it is.